Thank you, Cynthia, and good afternoon, everyone. I don't know how to react after an introduction like that, but it just makes me realize I've just been very busy, so I'll appreciate the kind words. Thank you for that. It's a pleasure and honor to be here and share with you my journey and some of the things that we're doing here. I know some of you are probably very aware of what we're working on as far as our company's mission and impact sort of strategy, but would love to share some of it with you today. So, let's see So I like to look at this picture. I'm going to start with this picture because that's my high school picture. So what I look and see in the mirror is a lot different, Mr. Northrup, the same way that you see. So I remind myself that I'm still in that awkward teen phase that I'm never going to seem to grow out of. But I'm originally from Owensboro, Kentucky. Went to Owensboro Catholic High School. My parents are immigrants from India. And like most people at that time in Asia, in foreign countries, education was the way out, and to create better lives for themselves, and they did. My dad and mom grew up in middle-class families where they were, able to get out and come to America to fulfill their dreams. So they instilled that to us. So for us, we grew up in an environment where education and doing good was part of our framework, not necessarily something we saw once a year or twice a year. They were very keen on instilling that into us. And with the people that I grew up with, my teachers, junior achievement, and organizations that guided me, there's no way I'd be here to tell you the story today if it wasn't for all the guidance that got along the way. So I'm very, very grateful for all the help I've gotten. So I'll caveat this. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the technology side of economic development and what we're doing. I don't know a lot of other trades, a lot of other industries, but this is the one that I feel is very important for our future generations and for our city to really focus on. So I like to caveat that because that's the only thing I can mildly say I know what I'm talking about. So what is Interapt? Interapt, the slides are just a little bit of extra fodder. If you want to just read the top line, that's kind of the cliff notes of what I say, but most of it is just a guide for me to explain the story and the journey. Our company, we specialize in innovation. We help companies like Humana, Kindred, Yum work on innovative projects and products that can either help drive revenue or help reduce operational costs. So using technology to solve business problems. So a lot of our work relies on partnerships with some of the big movers and shakers in the valley, like Apple, Nest, Globant, Google, etc. So we've had a good journey. As you can imagine, getting a technology company to be taken seriously in Kentucky was quite a task, but we've done that pretty nicely in terms of getting credibility from the industry. We meet regularly with companies in San Francisco and the East Coast to really kind of help increase our company's sort of presence, and we're getting kind of on the radar of some of the people that we want to be associated with. Client list, we've done a lot of great work with a lot of great companies, not just in Louisville, but around the country, and we're enjoying the challenge we're doing. So now you know a little about our company. We employ, as you can imagine, a lot of what you hear called millennials. We have a lot of 20-somethings, 30-somethings. That's the next generation of workforce and leaders that we happen to work. So, as you can imagine, there's a shortage. We are trying to address that by trying to recruit talent from out of state, out of the coast, and bring them to Louisville, which you can imagine is difficult at times because there's a lot of competition who are trying to do the exact same thing. So a couple of years ago, I got a call from our governor and congressman, and they said, "Hey, how can you help us build a talented workforce for the next generation in Kentucky, particularly Eastern Kentucky?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't know. Why are you asking me?" So, but they said, "No, we'd like you to look at it." And I said, "All right, we'll come up with a plan." So I sat, as I normally do, with some music and a whiteboard and just kind of started drawing. And about 2 days later, I had a pretty good plan that I thought, well, maybe this would work. But we just got to try it and start seeing if this would plant the seed. And the reason we took this on is because we knew that by 2020, the workforce is going to change, and we weren't seeing a lot of it in our talent pool in terms of the people that were interviewing in our company. And we know that the skills we're looking for are not necessarily the typical four-year degrees, the typical baccalaureates that are currently in play, for, at least in technology. We need problem solvers, we need creative thinkers, we need we need people with an artistic background and a creative class. We need technologists, we need a lot of different people, we need project managers. So we said, how do we take what's happening in our economy and our culture and turn that into the real worker of the future? So we've made up this plan of how we're going to, in 6 months, get people ready to go work at a company like Interapt. So we took a lot of people, we kind of said we're going to immerse them in 8 to 5 training, we're going to give them guidance along the way, we're going to get volunteers to sit with them on Saturday mornings if they need extra help. We're going to make sure that we build a plan that would benefit them and give them the skills to kind of participate in the global economy. And that's where I think that you're going to see a lot of disruption and change, is that a lot of our communities are moving from a local regional economy like coal to a global economy like technology. You can work for a company out of Europe that partners with a company in New York that happens to send work to the Midwest. And you may never meet them 1 minute of your life, but you'll get it on your laptop when you wake up in the morning. Please do these eight tasks. So this is one of the questions we also said. How do we help close that gap by creating this ecosystem of not just talent, but also next generation entrepreneurs? Because frankly, for me, the way I've seen it is that if you don't have the skills, how can you build the next generation companies? You've got to start with workforce development and skill building before you talk about entrepreneurship and economic development in technology. And this is a time where, traditionally education has had a hard time keeping up with it. It's been very disruptive, as we all know. Schools are trying to retool and get fix their kind of curriculum and plan to get in place. But as you can see, as we continue to figure it out, there's a growing gap right in the Midwest of skills, companies, and wealth that's being created to build those economic sort of value, that economic value. And bluntly, it's going to keep getting bigger if we don't do something about it. And if we don't take action now, that's just going to get bigger and bigger. So, to what we did. I said, fine, I tell you what, I don't know if this will work, but we'll try it, because I believe in doing stuff. And I said, if it fails, I said, if it works, we just change a bunch of people's lives and showed the rest of the country that there's capable skill building in Kentucky that they should pay attention to. If it fails, at least we know where the gap is, so we can start focusing on how to solve that problem. So to me, it was a win-win, even though a lot of people said this is a pretty daunting task. So we opened up a facility in Paintsville, Kentucky. We opened up applications, and we went roll up our sleeves and went to work. And this was the inspiration for one of the things that I look at from a business side. I talk about all this feel-good stuff, but there's a business reason to what we're doing. Let's say we have 100 students, right? And in the current state of our community, 65 of them go to college. Well, 32 of them won't finish. They won't be able to afford it. They won't be able to handle the curriculum. They'll have personal reasons, so on and so forth. The 33 that finish college, only 28 of them get jobs in their first year. It's not like when we were in school. It's not like you finish it, you get a degree, you got a job waiting for you. So it's changing. And only 13, now this is important, only 13% of people out of that 100 get jobs relevant to their major. So what does that mean? That means that we have 87% problem? No, we saw it as 87% opportunity. They're not dumb people in Kentucky. There's plenty of reasons why people may not do the things that we would do or I would do as growing up. They didn't have the guidance. They didn't have the opportunity. They may not have had two parents. They may have had some issues that we don't know about. So I said, let's go and dig in and see what the real reason is, because I believe there's smart people everywhere. So we came up with this plan to where we were not going to create engineers. We're going to create technologists. We're going to create them like similar to the way that the community colleges were doing, kind of a certification, get them skilled to a point where we can then get them employed and they can apprentice and keep building their skills over time. The apprenticeship model, as for hundreds of years, has been a tremendous inspiration to what we've done. So we kind of use that as kind of where we fixed our sort of plan in place. So we were creating technology craftsmen. And so first step was to interview people and get them, make sure that this was a career that they were, had the aptitude of doing. Then we train them. Then we pay them to apprentice. Then we give them a job opportunity. But what else can they do after they finish our program? We learned, some of them said, you know what, I didn't realize I could do this. I might go to college. I might go to an engineering degree. I said, well, that's great. Go apply, and if you get in, we'll support you and maybe even figure out a way to help subsidize some of your costs. Some of them said, well, not only do I believe that I can do this, I actually wanted to further my skills and work in different areas of technology. I said, that's great. Now that you've gotten the opportunity in front of you, you can do a lot of things with it. So some people are going to college, some people are going to the workforce, some people are going to other areas of technology. Others have said, I realize now that this is something that I could do. I never knew I could do this. And I hear that a lot. I never knew I could do this. But to be honest, all we did was put an opportunity in front of them, and they took advantage of it. So to give you an idea, we opened up a website and said, please come to our website and apply. So we used digital data and interviews to basically figure out if you were qualified for this sort of position. With a friend of mine in Chicago that he had built a digital interview company, I said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you perhaps tweak your algorithms and maybe help me get to a point where I can find someone who may be working in a restaurant if they got skills to be a technologist? And he kind of just paused and said, well, let me think about it and I'll try. So as another entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, he said, okay, I figured it out. Let's do it. So we did that. We got 1,000 interviews, 1,000 people interviewing, and we said, and through those 1,000, we whittled them down to 50 using big data. We use IBM Watson. We kind of a personality sort of test, as well as digital acumen. We opened our office in Paintsville, Kentucky. We made the commitment we redid a space at Big Sandy Technical Community College, and we wanted people to know that we were here, and this was not some sort of half-hearted attempt, that we were committed to the project. That's can we play the video, or is? I'll come back to that. So the video we'll go into in a bit, but after we showed that people can be trained, we had 35 people come through the training successfully. The 15 who didn't, we didn't just fire them, we off-ramped them into other careers at the community college and other paths that were better suited for them. We handed all that data to the schools, and now we had some people went back to school, some people got a certificate, some people tried to find another job. So the next step was to get the rest of the country to believe in what we're doing, that there was capability out here, because the whole country has a workforce shortage. But why can't Kentucky provide the supply for that? I don't believe that it's indicative of your acumen in technology if you're on the coast or not. I believe that it's just whether you're willing to put in the time and effort, and that's what we did. So I contacted our congressman. I contacted Congressman Khanna from Silicon Valley to come take a look at this, and he was very intrigued and interested, and he showed up, along with a lot of other movers and shakers in the technology field. Frankly, I just wanted them to see that this is real and not something that we just, have a bunch of people in a room with computers. They met them, interviewed them, talked to them one-on-one, and it took the story back to them to the Valley, and we've been working with them on helping scale and expand our program for that manner. This slide's a little busy, but I'll just quickly go through real quick. It's important because on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say 10 is your Stanford engineer graduate. We're not creating 10s, we're creating 4s. And then, but when you create a 4, some of those will become 5s, 6s, and 7s over time. Some will even, like I mentioned, go to college and maybe become an 8, 9, or 10. So instilling that confidence and that ability for them to realize that they could learn something complex, hard in a short period of time was extremely rewarding, and that was something that we helped do. We helped demystify technology for them. Some of these people, and the reason the second graph is there, some of these people, when they get enough confidence and skills, they'll become entrepreneurs. I know this sounds kind of strange, but I hope people leave my company in 2 years. I hope they've got enough skills, gusto, and guts to start their own company, because there's going to be no end to innovation in our lifetime. There's going to be plenty of opportunities for them to seize, and for the next generations to build the economies and companies that will, serve our communities. So that excites me a lot. Again, so going back to this diagram that really bothers me, I'd like to see us fill that gap in the Midwest. And if I had my druthers, I'd like to see it even like that. I'm kind of competitive. But truthfully, this is kind of my plan, where we can create this awareness, this dignity, this dignity of having a job, this dignity of having a skill, the empowerment you put into people by letting them know they can do this and they can learn something hard quickly, that's the seeds we're planting. I envision a program to go around the Commonwealth to be able to train people in multiple locations. There's a business reason for this. When we put time and effort into training someone, we have a skilled worker that provides value for our company and our customers. We have a plan to make them employable. We have a plan to create wealth in those communities, and we have a plan to keep them skilled up over the duration of their career. Technology is going to change every 6 months, and we're going to be ready when that happens to skill up as we need it. That's our job, and that's why our clients rely on us to help them. And frankly, when you talk about workforce, it's going to have to trickle into K through 12. We're going to have to really look at the commitments that we are doing for our next generation of fourth graders and fifth graders and sixth graders. A lot of schools are putting in coding programs in first grade, and that's great. But we also need to make sure that they're learning the right skills, they're getting the right pathway, and they have the job opportunities in Kentucky. Because what's the point if we train a bunch of smart people and they become our greatest export to the coasts? We've got to keep them here. We've got to keep them opportunity. We've got to show them it can be done here. And that's what I hope our company is kind of inspiring in one small way. This is a slide that I tell people that there's no guarantee that this will work, but unless you have these things in place, you don't have a shot. And those are, we have a lot of these things: infrastructure, low cost structure, good policy framework, livability. I mean, that's what I tell people. Why are you in Louisville? Well, have you been here? It's amazing. I love the city, and my wife loves the city too. Skilled workforce. We're working on that. But we're not the only state or city with that problem. The majority of the country is struggling with it. I believe that if we play our cards right and do the right investments in our people, Kentucky's going to be in the top 10 in this, not 47th or 48th. I'm tired of seeing those graphs because I don't think they're indicative of the capabilities of our people. And the plan is working. We planted the seed. So if you want to get academic about it, every company and every entrepreneurship has 5 stages. We came up with an idea. We came up with we proved the concept worked. We're growing it. We're going to diversify it throughout the Commonwealth and try with different companies. And frankly, I believe that when we get to the point in a couple years where we see our seeds bearing fruit, you're going to see these next generation entrepreneurs come up, give back, and be really, really committed to our communities. That's how you create the next generation of leaders, by providing these types of opportunities in places like this. The plan is working. We're seeing, Steve Case came to visit Louisville last year. He's come again at Derby, and he's a big advocate of rise of the rest. The other cities are going to have to rise up, otherwise, we'll have 10 mega cities in the next 10, 20 years that everyone lives in. That's not going to happen. We've got to be prepared for that. Endeavor Louisville is another organization with tremendous leadership and mentorship that has provided companies like myself and a number of other budding entrepreneurs the guidance and support, because frankly, this is hard. And if you don't have that support, it's very tough to make it through without that kind of help. So I'm very grateful for these types of things. Another commitment you may have recently heard we did is that we announced that we're expanding into Portland, at the west end of Louisville. I'm very proud of this because it was something that we didn't really think about too hard, but we did when we were presented with the opportunity. I saw what the impact just us being there could have on that community, and we're seeing it, and it's been really rewarding. Our team has been very proud of that. We have big goals. I'm a big believer that you can say that Kentucky's a great place to have a technology company, but if you don't see our great technology companies and you can't feel it and you can't experience them, and if you cannot work in those types of places and intern in those types of places, why would you believe it? So I think that I'm very proud of what we're doing, and I invite all of you, if you would like to come visit, we'd show you what our plans are for that area. I'll give you a little video. Volume, please. If we don't have volume, I can skip it. But as I've sat here and talked to you about it, I figured I'd close with it's easy for me to come up here and say it because it's all in my head or on my whiteboards at home, which my wife hates. But wake up in the middle of the night, you scribble something, go back to sleep. That's not a problem. But I wanted you to hear it from our graduates and the people that were in the program that really took the chance and took this opportunity. So, do we have volume? Let's see. I know, you know, right? If you take your cursor to the lower left of the black screen, you'll see a play button.
Honestly, before I started, I was very skeptical. I mean, my buddy sent me a link from a website that said I was going to make money to code, you know, and I was coming from Eastern Kentucky, which doesn't have the best economic history. I thought first right off the bat, scam. Day one I came here to see what all the hubbub was about, and then about 20 minutes of being here, they told me they were going to give me a check for $400, and my skepticism died pretty quickly right then and there.
I was used to this college atmosphere, kind of more lax, but we get here and it was just, you gotta learn, you gotta learn, you gotta learn.
You know there's things expected of you. You can't take it lightly, you know, can't miss anything, because, you know, it's a lot to learn in a short amount of time.
The Weatherly website was quite enjoyable for me to actually see something that we learned week 1 and week 2 come together and work.
This week we're working on projects, and the Swift is like a tip calculator, a database that could be used like for libraries and such, and also like a zoo project.
Gifted is a platform that will allow people to post their needs and have other people meet those needs. And we think that it's going to be a real great thing. We're currently working on our Techie Sports app, which is an app we can track current tournaments going on for esports, which is a big booming business at this time.
I'm currently working on a project that is from Interapt named Toggle It and adding more features to it.
We started off with HTML and CSS and JavaScript. We went into jQuery and Bootstrap, on into a choice between Java and iOS, and then now I'm into web development, learning Angular.
I'm feeling more and more comfortable as we speak in Ruby on Rails, creating a RESTful API.
My confidence has definitely rose because, like, when I started, you could ask me about programming and I could maybe tell you a language, but that was my extent of programming knowledge. I didn't know. I mean, I knew what it did, but I didn't know how to get there. And so far, my understanding is just like skyrocketed.
So just give you a little insight of what the kind of work we've been up to. They've done a phenomenal job, but you don't see the hard work and the hours they put in, and our team put in. This has been a tremendously rewarding experience. So I'd like to close really quickly because, you know, there's a couple of things I want you to take away from this, is that this is working and this can work with all of our help and leadership and support. We need to really double down and invest into our skill building, our workforce, our kids in a K through 12. I'm very passionate about this, as you can tell. But you know, building the next generation of companies, supporting the entrepreneurs, supporting the existing industries, all of these are something that we could call probably our greatest legacy for the Commonwealth, because this is what's going to happen in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And some of us may or may not be here, but that's what we'll leave behind for our kids and our grandkids. So I close with this kind of bold quote and say that, you know, just to give it a little bit of context, but I firmly believe it, that we have the ability to do this. And now we're trying to lead the effort to do this, not just for 50 individuals, but let's do it for 1,000. Let's do it for 5,000. Let's do it for 10,000. I think we can. I think we have the ability, and you know, we'll be working tirelessly to do so. So I thank you for your time and attention, and I hope this helps clear up what we're doing. So thank you.
I love it, from coal to code. That's amazing. Well, I'm sure we have time for some questions, so if you'd like to come to the mics. One question I had, Ankur, was, is your move to Portland have anything to do with Google Fiber choosing Portland as their first place?
Well, what didn't hurt. So as a Google partner, we like to support our partners. It is definitely going to be a tremendous boost for that area, because we take for granted the speeds at which our homes connect, and majority of the country, majority of rural areas don't have that. So imagine a 3-minute video taking 10 minutes to download. So it's good. So we see that going to help the entire community, not just us. But yes, we love fast speeds. That's for sure.
Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Wardell. Ankur, could you talk a little bit about how you bring this across the state? The partnerships you develop, the funding, how does that work that you scale up in that way?
I was hoping I could ask you that question and figure it out, but no, it's a great one. That's what we're working on right now. How do we scale this? You know, we've proven the concept. We have a couple of ideas where we have already talked with a lot of educators. We've been talking with the state leaders about how we can bring this into, you know, workforce development around maybe 5 or 6 different cities. We are talking about doing it again in Eastern Kentucky. We're talking about doing it again with partnerships in Louisville. We're talking about doing it in Western Kentucky. Last week I was at Apple headquarters, and they are really supportive of what we're doing. I'll brag a little bit about our team. The head of global learning gave a presentation, and he and I had exchanged a few emails, and I had forwarded him a few slides and links, and he said what Ankur and what Kentucky is doing is exactly what Apple is doing in Europe, and doing it for 5,000 and 6,000 people. So scaling it, definitely, you have a constraint of trainers. How many more people can we have to teach the program? We are looking at some remote learning where we have one trainer that can maybe broadcast out to multiple sites. We're looking at ways we can do it online. Some of it you can't just learn it from a video. So we're going to experiment with different ways. But our goal is to get it from 50 to 500 pretty quickly. The funding side, we have reduced the cost of it because it is time intensive. But it is going to be it's still an investment. It's not something you can just give someone, you know, a $50, you know, card to learn this and it'll fix itself. It's going to be an investment. Yes, sir.
Hi, Ankur. My name's Ken Grossman, Executive Image Custom Clothiers. Thanks for what you're doing. It's amazing. It's great to hear about, and something that's a little bit under the radar. This might not be in the spirit of Rotary. My question's a little self-serving because I have a high school senior, and so I'm thinking, you know, his future and everything. But my real question is, how do you profile the kids of all those that apply to be involved in your program? How do you determine who qualifies? I know you do some testing, but what is it that you're really looking for?
Yeah, so we compile a lot of data, but there's no silver bullet that this person is a perfect programmer, this person is not. The good news is not everyone is going to be a programmer. That's okay. The other jobs around technology sales, project management, quality assurance, being able to creative art, the buttons on all your apps, that's an artist. All right, that's a skill set that may not be. Our programmers are the worst user experience people, so there's a really symbiotic relationship that occurs. But you have to have that underlying technology understanding. And I didn't put it in this slide deck, but we have a whole wheel of skills that we need around a technology lifecycle, and it includes every walk of life and every skill set, which is really great. To answer about your high school student, one of the reasons I was inspired to this, because just like you, I had a number of very intelligent executives from Louisville say, hey, I run a $5 billion or $100 billion company, but my kid doesn't understand. And I told him she should go to YouTube, she should take some classes online, and maybe she should start doing some tinkering on some projects. And they think, Dad, you're stupid. So they send him to me, can you talk to him? I'm like, sure. So I listen to them and they're like, yeah, I go, maybe you should go to YouTube, maybe you should download some code, and maybe you should, maybe start tinkering with some little code and build some apps. And they go home at dinner and say, Mr. Gopal is just a genius, Dad. You have no idea how. But that's the truth. I have kids who've been at Manual and kids who've been at Ballard and kids who've been at all high schools that are now at Berkeley, at MIT, working at Google for the summer in Zurich. So I know that we have the intelligence quotient here. We've got to create that opportunity. So,
yes. Susan, last question to you.
I'm Susan Smith, and you've sort of alluded to my question, and I'd like for you to focus a little bit more on it. Do you find that the people you do select and invest in have challenges in adapting to a different lifestyle, different culture? How do you manage family expectations or family lack of support? Just curious about the family system and the culture.
Very good question, and it was an issue that we had. We talked about, do we drug test people? Do we provide childcare? Do we do these things? And we kind of made decisions on all those. But one thing we did do is we paid people to learn. We knew there's a lot of workforce training dollars available, so I said, let's just put that dollars into giving them $400 a week. Because that at least puts it, you can't expect someone to learn something hard when they're getting naysaying from their families. Like, what are you doing? Go get a job. Or worrying about where their daughter's next meal is coming from. So we were very sensitive to that. So one of the things I said that I was kind of the first crazy idea. I said, first of all, we got to pay people to go to school. They said, that's ridiculous. I said, nope, then it's not going to work. Because you can't expect people to do this if you're not going to invest in them, and they're not going to respond. Because they can't, not because they, so that family, but it helped solve that, because at least they were getting some money to help along the way. They were getting support, and frankly, we gave them an opportunity they didn't want to lose. When I say they seized the opportunity, they were emailing us, can we keep the facility open later? Can we open it on Saturdays? Would it be okay if we spent 2 more weeks on this because everyone's really into it? I'm like, sure, absolutely. So that family structure, that community support has been, that's why one of the things that is critical that was critical for this to work. I think also our team, our Interapt team, was super engaged. I asked them before we started this, we have this opportunity to change a lot of people's lives. It's a little different than what we do, but it's kind of in the same bucket. What do you all think? Everyone raised their hand and said, we're in. So that sort of commitment from our team is also that critical, because they were also that vested into the project. But the families were really great. I'll give you one anecdote that really touched me at our graduation, that really made me understand how important this was. And we're just one channel of all the different schools and programs and we're doing our small part. 2 people came up and said, we want to thank you for finally making us feel like good parents. Excuse me. It's a little emotional for me, but feeling like good parents, because we told our kids that coal's not going to be here forever, and you need to learn technology. You need to learn skills. Well, they saved all their money and sent them to school, but that school taught them like last generation skills. They taught them how to replace hard drives. They taught them how to work at a call center. That's not real technology. We're not teaching that. And we put the money in. My son couldn't get a job. Well, that son just went from waiting tables for $12,000 to $15,000 a year to a $40,000 to $50,000 a year job working in Louisville right now. So you talk about people trying to do the right thing, but just don't have the means, and it's not anyone's real fault, it's just the way our world has kind of evolved to. That really made me feel really good about the work that our whole team is doing, because it impacted that family tremendously. Because their son is one of our top 5 students, and he got it. He's going to become an engineer in the next couple of years, I guarantee it. So.
Well, please join me in thanking. Ankur, stay with me up here. We'll take a picture, but we're really fortunate to have such an innovative disruptor and entrepreneur and great thinker in our community.